There are so many different ways to make money in real estate, and if you're a beginner and just thinking about getting started, my guest today is going to show you the way.
You could basically walk in for next to nothing on a new home, rent out the old one, and start cash flowing that from day one. Now you're basically living there for free. You're basically paying everything. And if something does falter, hopefully you'd make enough money to even pay for that first house that you rented out as well. I may be able to put down $20,000 and have the seller carry the note. So now I'm making payments to the seller as opposed to making payments to a bank. You can then take that same house and rent it out to someone. Your mortgage payment might be $400. Go ahead and rent it out for $1,200. $1,300, $1,800, depending on, again, where you are. Maybe you have the money and maybe you have the lines of credit to get that deal done. And maybe that your partner doesn't have to use theirs. Just bring something strong to the table. Maybe it's your deal, it's your money. You just need to partner with somebody, give them a little bit of equity in the deal, perhaps. But I mean, that could be absolutely huge to help you make some incredible gains and get you into that business as well.
Agostino Pintus is a multifamily investor, syndicator, and an entrepreneur with more than 15 years of experience in real estate. He has been involved in the acquisition of over $35 million commercial real estate and has been expanding his real estate journey year after year. But he started from zero, and therefore he's going to be able to help you get started as well. I'm your host, Kiana Danielle, and you're watching the Invest Diva movement. We're moving towards helping 1 million moms starting investing on their own by the year 2025. Now, let's go say hi to Agostino! Welcome, Agostino. I'm super excited to have you on the show, and we're going to talk about a topic that I've never talked about in my show before, and a lot of people ask me about it, and I have no idea about it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bring in Agostino, who's been making $100 million deals in real estate, and you really started out, with really, really small, and you've made your way. You've tried so many things. And today, before making things super complicated, I just wanted to get to different ways that you can actually make money in real estate, because there's not just one, there's just so many different ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And first off, thanks for inviting me. I really, really appreciate it and hope to offer a lot of value to your audience. And I mean, hey, listen, right now I'm doing these giant deals and it's very, very exciting, but like everyone else, I started from zero. I started with my first single family home. And that is actually one way to get into this business. And that is to keep your current home, the one that you have right now, right? Maybe you want to rent that out. But then of course, buy another house. And why would you want to do something like that? Well, because when you're getting into a new home, you only need to put typically 3 to 5%. Some banks today are even offering, like, they'll finance even the closing costs. They'll do the whole thing. You could basically walk in for next to nothing on a new home, rent out the old one, and start cash flowing that from day one. That is one super way to get started in real estate. Just
I have one question for you here. Why would I put myself into that kind of financial burden? Like, if I'm just getting that rent, should the new home be smaller than the old home so that the rent kind of pays off the mortgage? Like, how exactly is this really benefiting me with the cash flow?
That's an excellent question, because there's reasons why I do big deals these days. And the more units you have, the more risk is spread out across the multiple units. In a single family, however, not so much, right? So I would recommend that, if you get into your new house, try to do something you can afford. Try to make sure you have more than enough leeway in there, just in case that first house goes vacant for a month or something like that, which can happen. And of course, we're not even talking about tenant underwriting. That's not the discussion today, but that's that's maybe for a later show. But making sure you put the right tenant in there, because the last thing you want to do is get stuck with 2 mortgages. Right, the last thing.
That's totally my biggest fear when it comes to rentals.
But I'll tell you what, Kiana, there's another way to do it. And that is to get into like a two 2-unit or a 4-unit or 2, 3, or 4-unit. That's another way to spread out that risk. House hacking basically is what that's called. That is actually a very exciting way to do it. In many, many markets, there's these duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, right? And the reason I'm focused on those 3 types is because those are still considered residential, right? So if you think about it, if you were to apply that last thing I just talked about with the single family, I can go buy, let's say, for instance, I have a house, I rent it out, and I can go buy a fourplex, and the same rules apply. The lender, provided it's a good asset and a good location, and maybe you want to live there. So great. Now you have those other 3 people paying the mortgage for the fourplex, which is phenomenal, because now you're basically living there for free, right? They're paying all the bills, they're paying the insurance, they're paying the taxes, they're basically paying everything. And if something does falter, hopefully you'd make enough money to even pay for that first house that you rented out as well. So that's probably my most favorite way of getting started for someone to get started. And again, the financing on doing those bank finance, those smaller deals is considered residential. That part is huge because typically you only need 3% down on a deal like that.
Do you even recommend putting all the cash, like buying the whole house in cash? Would that even make sense? Or
no. Yeah, I would never do that. I mean, the last thing you want to have is something called debt equity, right? That's what I call it anyway. And because if you think about it, let's say you have $200,000 or $400,000. We'll make it $400,000. I think it's more indicative of where the market is in general for like a fourplex, for instance, $100,000 per door. If I can just use, say, $40,000, $50,000 to get into a deal, I can take the rest of that money and put it into other deals and get them all cash flowing, leveraging the bank's money and the low interest rates to get into more deals and cash flow those deals, right? That is the power of using your cash and using leverage. I mean, if you over leverage, it gets you into trouble. That's a whole other discussion. And doing it right is absolutely key. But the thing is that the last thing you want to do is have a whole pile of money sitting in one place, not doing anything. That's the last thing you want. You want to keep that currency. That's why they call it currency. It's current. It's moving. You want to keep that money moving in terms of cash flow. That's what you're looking at.
I mean, it's just, I'm so happy you're saying this because I've been trying to tell this to my parents and my sister, and they're like just super old fashioned. Like, no, we wanted safety. I'm like, you don't get it. So they don't listen to me. I'm going to have them watch this video and listen to you. Like, dude, you don't put all the money. You don't put all money down. I would prefer to invest the rest of them in the stock market if you don't want to get into the, leverage problem. But these are super exciting, but these are the types of real estate investment that a lot of people know about. So what are some other types that you can tell us today that some people may not know about, how to make money in real estate?
Yeah, well, getting into the deal is the very first thing. Taking action on that very first deal is a must, right? There's a saying that once you do one deal, the next one comes right behind it, because then the light flicks off. You're like, oh my God, someone's actually sending me a check. That's what happened to me. When I bought my first house, I was scared to death. And then at the end, beginning of the month, I get a check, and the check shows up and it's in my name. And I'm like, oh my God, they sent me money. It's in my name. I did absolutely nothing. It was phenomenal, right? It was great. And I think that's what causes people to take action. But someone listening right now may say, you know what? My credit is not so good, or I'm not sure if I have a good banking relationship to do this. The way around that is you doing what's called owner financing. Now, this is a little more advanced, right? Many people aren't even aware of this thing. But if that house is owned by someone, like free and clear, they can actually become the bank for you, right? So you probably have to put a little more money down on something like that, but at least it gets you into that deal. So if you own a house, and let's say, for instance, it's a $200,000 house, depending on where it is, and of course what the rents would be, there's a whole underwriting portion for this that you really should know before you do a deal like this, by the way. But let's say, for instance, that's the case. I may be able to put down $20,000 and have the seller carry the note. So now I'm making payments to the seller as opposed to making payments to a bank, which is totally legal. Anyone can do it. Of course, see an attorney before you do all this. But then you can then take that same house and rent it out to someone, right? So maybe your mortgage payment might be $400. Go ahead and rent it out for 1,200, 1,300, 1,800, depending on, again, where you are. That's another great way to get started in real estate. Again, a little more advanced, but certainly very, very doable.
So I'm assuming these are not the type of investments that you're doing right now, though, because the things that I was hearing before we were chatting, besides buying and renting out, what are some other ways to make money in real estate?
Well, I will say this. What's funny is that many of the things that I'm doing now, these giant, big deals, it's the same stuff I'm telling you right now applies there too. We're doing an owner finance deal right now. We're doing a flip as well. So it's like, it's the same thing, just add zeros and it's the same deal, right? But another great way is to do flips, for instance, right? It's funny. I started in the real estate business doing just that, making extra money on the side, buying older homes, maybe all beat up, and just drive for dollars, just drive an older neighborhood, see a house with tall grass, and maybe the windows are busted up, maybe the blinds are all messed up, that kind of thing. That tells me, what? Someone might be a seller here, and look at the neighborhood. The neighborhood seems like it might be okay, right? And maybe I want to get into that deal, because if I can buy that asset for a low enough price, I can put in $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and then fix it up and then maybe sell it for $150,000, right? And that's the thing. So once I do find that deal, I'll try to find them using city records, using public data that might be available, reach out to them, give them a call, tell them about me, how I can help them get out of that deal, get rid of this asset that's costing them money. I mean, they're paying taxes on it. If utilities on, they're still paying utilities. They're paying out money. You can help them by taking it off their hands, right? There's tons of those deals out there. But the thing is that if you're going to do a deal like that, I would strongly recommend, if you've never done one before, try to partner with somebody that has done it before. That's going to be the absolute key, because trying to do it on your own, that if you've never done it before, could be quite a challenge. But if you partner up with someone that has done it, that has the contractors already, the trusted contractors, maybe you have the money and maybe you have the lines of credit to get that deal done, and maybe that your partner doesn't have to use theirs. Just bring something strong to the table. Maybe it's your deal, it's your money. You just need to partner up with somebody, give them a little bit of equity in the deal, perhaps, depending on how you want to structure it. But I mean, that could be absolutely huge to help you make some incredible gains and get you into that business as well. The flipping way is another great way to get into the business.
Right. No, absolutely. So my brother-in-law, my sister, that's what they do. And I totally agree with you, because time is an essence when you do flippings, because from my understanding, you have to do it within a year. Otherwise, you have to pay more stuff. I don't know. It can get very complicated. You definitely want to need that. You definitely want to have the contractors, because contractors in general cannot be trusted. So if you don't have the people in place, do not do it alone. Basically, that's what you're saying. And I absolutely 100%. Agree with you. That is one of the that's like, that is something that can be your full-time job. Like it needs to be, you have to be on top of it, I feel like, but there's a lot of money to be made if you understand what you're doing, if you go to the right neighborhood and actually get the deal for a cheap price, because you don't want to overpay for that house that is already beaten down and then go and not find a buyer and then be in trouble. So there's a lot to learn. And I know that you've been teaching people now how to do this. How can people get in touch with you, to learn about real estate investment and how to get started really?
Absolutely. If you go to bulletproofcashflow.com, there's information out there. Of course, on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, we talk a lot about real estate as well. We talk about mindset. We talk about also sales and marketing. It's a whole other aspect of really understanding and how to sell yourself to that person that you're buying that asset from. Key things to know is how to put all that together. But long and short of it, bulletproofcashflow.com. We have a YouTube channel. We have we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere. Yeah, like I said, we help people get started. We help people get into giant deals as well. You know what? I'll tell you right now, Kiana, I used to do the whole corporate world thing. I will never, ever, ever do that ever again. There's never been a day where I've woken up and said, you know what? I really miss working in corporate.
Oh my God. Like even the days that my job, I wasn't even like making any money doing what I'm doing right now, I would not want to think about that, let alone when you actually make it. And what I love about the way that you approach business, that you are the definition of having multiple income streams. Like you're not, okay, I'm just real estate. Okay, I'm just this, I'm just that. And that's the way to go. You want to have multiple revenue streams because sometimes, you know what, the real estate industry may go, hit a problem. So you want to have some other avenue, and then vice versa. The stock market crash, you want to have a different kind of avenue. And that is what you do as well. And that's why we kind of bonded on that. Again, thank you so much, Agostino, for being on the show today. You guys, I'm going to add the links to Agostino's YouTube channel and his bulletproof cash flow. And I don't know, maybe you'll even become your partner. I don't know. He was talking about partnerships. We'll see. But you want to make your first deal.
Always happy to help. Always happy to help people. Absolutely.
We'll see how that goes. But I am planning on having Agostino back on this channel to dive deeper down into the real estate investment world. So if you have any questions, first of all, tell me which one of these real estate investing avenues are you more interested in learning about, so that we can make that the topic of our next YouTube video. So go ahead in the comment section, let me know what you want Agostino to teach you, and we'll have him back on. Again, thank you so much for Agostino, and we'll see you in the next Investing by Movement episode. Before I let you go, we have a tradition. I ask all of my guests to make a silly face.
Make a silly face. I thought I was going to howl or something. I had one of those too. Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. All right. You got it.